One of the unique features of our native Filipino languages is the fact that we have two different words for the first person plural pronoun, we. Pwedeng kami, meaning we exclusive. Kami lang, hindi kayo kasali. Pwedeng tayo, that is still we, pero we inclusive. Tayong lahat. Ibig sabihin, kasali kayo. Kaya pag tinanong, ano yung we sa Tagalog, makikita mo kung yung tao inclusive or exclusive. Anong unang papasok sa isip niya? Kami o tayo? In our first reading today, St. Paul is addressing two kinds of people who frequented the synagogues. Yung mga insiders at outsiders. Normally, the rabbis addressed only the insiders. Ibig sabihin, yung mga Hudyo, those who were Jews by birth or ethnicity, yung tinatawag nilang the children of Abraham. But Paul addressed also the outsiders. Sino ba yung outsiders? May tatanong ninyo. Paul simply refers to them as God-fearing people. Ibig niyang sabihin, yung mga pagans, the ones whom they called Gentiles, but who also attended synagogue services. Actually, sumikat yung mga sinagoga nung panahon ng diaspora. Mula pa nung 3rd century BC, many non-Jewish people, mga Gentiles, were attracted to attend the synagogue worship because the Jews were known for their sacred books. Sa ibang mga templo, in most other pagan temples, usually, the main act of worship revolved around the offering of animal sacrifices by the priests. Hindi ganyan sa sinagoga. Because the synagogues were not temples, and they did not have priests. Ang mga pinuno ng mga sinagoga were called rabbis, and the rabbis were lay people. They did not offer animal sacrifices. They were more like teachers, and the synagogue was more like a school where people gathered to listen to the scriptures being read and being discussed as the Word of God. The center of attraction were their collection of books, which were called Torah, Nebiim, Ketuvim. Ibig sabihin, the law, the prophets, and the writings. It was Judaism that first gained the reputation of being a so-called religion of the book. The outsiders remained as outsiders, even if they attended the synagogue regularly. Ang ginawa ng mga Hudyo, pinalaki nila yung synagogues and built larger areas outside, na ang tawag ay the courtyard of the Gentiles. But these people who were already converted to Judaism remained as outsiders, even if they tried to observe all the rules and regulations of Judaism. They never got integrated into the mainstream. Nanatili silang marginalized. When St. Paul started preaching the gospel, he addressed the insiders, but these insiders rejected the gospel. And to his great surprise, The outsiders were more receptive. They were more open to the gospel that he was preaching. And they were more interested to listen and know more about Jesus. Kaya, this led to a dilemma. Even among the early Christians, kasi yung mga sinaunang Kristiyano, mga Hudyo silang lahat. Kaya, the conflict was, pwede bang isama ang mga Gentiles? Could they or could they not be included in their assemblies? Should they or should they not be baptized? Hindi ba kailangan maging Jewish muna sila bago sila maging Christian? This was the first issue that seriously divided Christianity. I mentioned this yesterday. And it had to be settled in the first council ever to be convened, the Council of Jerusalem. Kung gusto ninyong magbasa pa ng konti about it, I suggest, assignment ninyo, the book of the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 15, Acts 15. When they finally decided to open their doors to the Gentiles, yung mga Kristiyano, they were holding their assemblies in their house churches. And dahil binuksan ang pinto nila sa mga Gentile converts, abay nag-overflow yung kanilang mga bahay. Kaya pinalakihan ng pinalakihan ang kanilang mga simbahan, kaya nagkaroon ng mga sinaunang simbahan. Dati-rati sa bahay lang sila talaga. And this is the reason why Christianity spread rapidly like a brush fire during the first 3 centuries. Suddenly, yung dating disenfranchised Gentile converts to Judaism, suddenly they felt they were included, no longer excluded. Hanggang sa panahon natin ngayon, societies continue to function around the principle of inclusion-exclusion. While most other religions tended to make the door of inclusion as narrow as possible, Christianity made it as wide as possible. This was precisely why Christianity was called the good news. It was a very welcoming faith. It also became the reason why eventually ang mga Kristiyano mismo, they got expelled from the synagogues and they were regarded as heretics. But please take note, it was Judaism that disowned Christianity, not Christianity that disowned Judaism. How can we disown Judaism? Jesus himself, Mama Mary, Joseph, the apostles, they were all Jews. Christianity cannot disown Judaism because that is where we come from. It is a faith founded on Judaism. It is founded on a promise to Abraham. Remember in Genesis 12, God said to Abraham, I will bless you so that through you all the nations on earth shall be blessed. Ayun pala yung mission ng Israel. To be blessed in order to be a blessing to the world. Ibig sabihin, ang gustong pagpalain ng Diyos, hindi lang sila, kundi buong daigdig. And Jesus knew this very well. He merely challenged Judaism to be true to its mission as children of Abraham, to be as inclusive as possible, never to say only a chosen few will be saved, but rather that we were blessed in order to be a source of blessing for the whole world. Dahil ang gustong iligtas ng Diyos ay hindi lang tayo, kundi buong mundo. At yun din ang sinasabi ni Jesus in today's gospel. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. Meaning, if you make it too exclusive, it will stop being my Father's house. Natatandaan niyo ba? One time, nagwala si Jesus sa temple because the priests of the temple had made worship into a lucrative business where people could buy the animals certified worthy of sacrifice, and they all belonged to the priests. Remember what Jesus said? Stop making my Father's house into a marketplace. Parang ganun din yung sinasabi nung isang kanta na sumikat in the 1970s by Peter, Paul, and Mary, entitled All My Trials. Ang sabi niya, if religion were a thing that money could buy, then the rich will live and the poor will die. The message of Jesus is, my Father's house does not exclude anyone. It has a lot of room and space. We make this world into the Father's house when we learn to make space for one another, when we can take responsibility for each other, when we can treat even those not related to us by blood as our own brothers and sisters.